This video will walk you through how to use Pull Everywhere within PowerPoint. So from this point, you have gone to this link and you have downloaded the Pull Everywhere for Windows PowerPoint using this button right here and following the instructions. Once you download Pull Everywhere attachment for PowerPoint, when you log into PowerPoint, you will notice a new tab at the top that says Pull Everywhere. So you will click on that and a new menu will appear for the Pull Everywhere items. So this is where you can use your pre-made items when you're on the Pull Everywhere website, or you can make new polls directly in PowerPoint. So there are these two buttons right here that you're going to use mainly. And if you want to bring in a pre-made poll, you'll just press Insert and a pop-up menu will appear where you'll see any existing polls or folders that you've made. You also can make a new activity right from this button. So there is flexibility when you click on these two buttons. So if I want to bring in a poll that I've already made, I'm going to select the folder that I know I have my poll questions created, and I'm going to decide which one I want to be in my first slide. So I'm going to select this one, and a new page will pop up. You'll see your poll question. You will see the website that your students should have loaded at the beginning of your lecture. So this might be something that you might want to put in the chat, or when you are starting class, to remind students to have a separate browser open to go to this website. When you are ready to start your polling activities, they can just open up that browser to respond. On this new page, you'll also see some other buttons appear. So you can delete this poll, you can edit the visual settings, and you can also edit the question itself. And this is where you'll get some response settings. So this will really depend on your preferences for your students in lecture, whether or not you want to allow answers to be changed, if you want to limit the response per person. So I do have this one on and I just want each person to respond once. If you want to allow your students to respond anonymous to questions, you can toggle that on. You can also restrict the participants, and this is how people can respond. So sometimes students can use their phone for certain questions, not all questions. So if the phone option is available, you can toggle that one on or off. So this one doesn't have that choice, so the students will have to use that web browser link. Once your response settings are to your preferences, you can press Save. And the most important thing to remember is you need to select this Insert Slide. So now you can see that that poll is the next newest slide in my PowerPoint. And when you have a Poll Everywhere slide, you will know because you'll have these kind of gray and blue squares in the corner. And they'll always remind you that you need to start the presentation to see live content. And it's very important that for polling everywhere, so if you're on Collaborate, it's very important that you share your entire screen when you go into sharing mode to ensure that Poll Everywhere will work properly for you. So now if I want to add another slide, let's say we want to add a new question. Again, it really doesn't matter which button you press, you're going to get the same screen. So as always, if you had a polling question idea that you didn't pre-make in advance and you want to add it, you can select New, and they'll give you all of their polling questions that are blank, and you'll work through the same process that you did online to create them. I'm going to pull in another pre-made one for demonstration purposes, and I'm going to select a multiple choice one. And again, You'll see up here that this one does allow the two options. The students can use the Poll Everywhere link, or they can text their response for this one. And again, you can delete it, set your visual settings, as well as edit. And when you press edit, those response settings will come in. Again, it's important to decide if you want your students to be able to answer multiple times or just once. And then down here, this is where you'll see if the phone option is available, a text messaging section as well. So if you want that on, you'll be prompted to go through some settings, or if you just want the students to use the web browser at all times, you can simply toggle that off. And then you can press save. And then you can press insert. And on certain polling questions, they're going to ask you how you want your activity flow to be presented. So you can go with the default where the question is up there and the answers kind of come in as students respond, or you can give the multiple choice question and then you can move to a new slide to show the results, and then you can move on to lock the slide. I'm just going to go with the default, and then I'm going to press insert. And now if I go back to my PowerPoint, I see that that is in there as well. Let's add one more poll, and we'll go with a word cloud. So you'll notice when you have some polling questions, you'll have this kind of like buffering thing that says no response received yet, and that's just simply because you haven't deployed the question. And once students start responding, this little pop-up will disappear. So again, you can go in to edit your response settings as well as the question. If you want to make sure that you limit the response per person, you can have that on or off. This is a word cloud, so I'm going to select off. And then again, if you want the phone text messaging option to be deployed, you can keep that on. Or if you just want them using their browser, again, you can toggle it off and then press save and insert. And again, not all questions will have to ask you your activity flow preferences. So now you are ready to deploy your PowerPoint and you want your students to be active on their end during the lecture. So what you'll do is you'll have that link ready for your students, and when your students first come to this website, they will be prompted that they're joining this presentation, and then they can add their name before entering. And you'll see on their end that they have the polling questions on their screen, and this is where they will respond, and then you will see the results in your PowerPoint. So if we turn this to presentation mode and you go through and you come to your first poll, and you prompt everyone that they need to be going to the link above and answering the question about how is everyone feeling about the material we covered last week. And if I'm a student, all I have to do is simply select where I want to put my response. And looking at the teacher presentation, you'll see that there is a marker here from that student, and you'll start to see other markers come up as students respond. You can say, you have 30 seconds, you have a minute to answer before going over responses. You can then, if you toggle your mouse in the bottom when you're in presentation mode, when you're ready to lock the responses, you just simply press the lock. And what your students see on their end is they can no longer respond to that polling question. So when you want students to stop responding and focus back on your presentation or your shared screen, you can just toggle over the lock button, and then you can review the results before moving on. You can also write from this slide clear responses before moving on to the next slide. So then we move to our next slide, and this is a multiple choice, and this one is what is your favorite show to binge watch over and over again? So we have four pictures, and again, if I bring over the student view, they see the multiple choice and they can decide which one that they want to answer. And because I set the default for results, you're going to see real-time results as students answer. So because there's only one student, which is me, we're only going to see one response. But if you have a class of 20, you're going to start to see these bars fluctuate. And again, once the time is up, you can always lock it, and students are no longer able to give a response. And then, of course, you can always go in and clear results. The next polling question is that word cloud. So list 5 keywords from the chapter you just read. Again, you're going to have this buffering response while students work on their screen. So again, looking at the student feed, they have the prompt and they also have this place to add their responses. So if I was a student, I can start adding in my words, and then that buffering screen will go away and you will start to see the responses come in. So as the same words get used, obviously they'll get larger. And they'll start to kind of accumulate. And again, you can give your students a time limit, and then once that time limit is up, you can press lock. The students again are prompted that this poll is locked and they can no longer respond, and you can go over the results. And then if you want to keep it up, you can. So this might be a good choice if you are loading a link after a collaborate meeting, so students who are attending asynchronously can see the types of responses that were accumulated during the live session of your course. And then when you are done with your presentation, you can exit. Your students can simply exit out of the polling browser at the end of your lecture. So this concludes how to use Poll Everywhere within PowerPoint to use within your course. Just remember that when you are presenting and you have a Poll Everywhere in your PowerPoint slide deck, it is important to share your entire screen when you are using Collaborate to ensure that you get all of the benefits of Poll Everywhere within your class time.